Tonight, we have some really big name characters returning to the silver screen. And we have the first of what will probably be many Ukrainian propaganda films. Before we get into all that stuff, though, I want to tell you that I finally got around to watching Morbius. Okay, now, before all the fanboys start geeking out, I don't read Morbius as a rule in the comics. I know the character because I've read a few of the crossovers, like when he went against Spider-Man and stuff like that. So I know a few of the crossovers, but I did not and do not follow him on a regular basis. I had a little bit of hope for this movie because it was not coming, although it's part of the Marvel universe, it was not coming from Marvel Disney. It was coming from Columbia Sony. You see, there are still some characters that the mouse does not have. I've talked about this before on the show. So I knew it, I hoped anyway, that it wouldn't be loaded down with the Disney agenda and that this actually might be a pretty decent movie. You know, I got to tell you this. I did like the way Jared Leto played Morbius. I thought the special effects were pretty good. I thought the way he played the character was pretty good. And up until the final reel, I really liked this movie. I was enjoying it. It was kind of a different take on vampire. It was kind of an interesting story. I think Sony and Columbia were doing a good job on it. So what went wrong? Well, I think the writers botched the ending to this. First off, the arc of Morbius, from what he was and trying to do to what happens at the end of the movie. Wow, that happened like this, like turning on a light switch. So it was not done well. And they wanted to bring in, toward the end, they bring in the teaser for the setup for the next movie, and they bring in Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes Hawk, and it made no sense if you weren't part of the canon for Spider-Man, okay? I watched this movie with a few people who are not normal superhero moviegoers, and as a result, when Michael Keaton came on, oh, they were right, it's Michael Keaton. They had no clue who his character was. They had no clue as to why Morbius would be talking with him. They had absolutely, it just ruined the entire ending for them. And I could see why, because in the arc of the character, there's no reason why Morbius would suddenly decide to talk to Hawkman. It didn't make any sense, okay? So, in an effort to try to pull their stories together and set up the next movie, they botched the ending, and I think that's why this one went down the tubes as far as box office returns are concerned. Still, Leto did a nice job. If he resurrects the character in a little stronger script, it might not be bad. Here's a look now at Morbius. Michael, what have you done?
I was trying to help people, but the cure, it's a curse.
Michael.
I have powers that can only be described as superhuman, but there's a cost. Now, I face a choice: to hunt and consume blood, or die.
We all have monsters within us. It's up to us to control it.
What if I can't?
Michael Morbius. You've been given a gift.
Not exactly.
Time to let go of what you used to be.
Discover who you're meant to be.
All our lives we've lived with death. Why shouldn't they know what it feels like for a change? Just accept who you are.
The bad guy.
More BS.
Holy water? Really?
Yeah. You ever see Lost Boys? Story of my life.
That's one way to start us off. Cinematic class is about to begin. Your professor is in. Greetings, salutations, and other sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. Boy, tonight we have an awful lot to talk about, but first, before we do, I want to make sure that we say a little kudos and tip of the hat to our sponsor, the House of Fairuza Barber Shop and Cigar Lounge. They're located on the corner of Drake and South Park Road. Boy, this is a fine establishment. I got some news coming up about them a little bit later on in the show that is going to be very good, especially for those of you who enjoy fine cigars. And I'd like to throw out a little plug here for the Rex Reel podcast. It's starting to take shape, and I'm hoping we have that up and running by the holidays. So you want to keep your eyeballs open for that as well. You know, some big characters are coming back to the screen, and one of them is the character Fletch. Now, before we go on to this, let me tell you that Chevy Chase has a reputation in Tinseltown for being kind of a arrogant and ignorant man. Rumors are that he's very difficult to work with on a set. Now, personally, I've never really cared for Chase. The majority of his films, I think, basically are throwaway films. Okay, although I do like Caddyshack, but in that he had a supporting role, and he was basically upstaged by Bill Murray, and of course Rodney Dangerfield in that. You know, he was originally set to be one of the crew when Ghostbusters came underway. They had a bit of a spat. Him and Murray got into it. He backed out. Harold Ramis, who wrote the movie, came in to take his place. Folks, I think that was a good move. I think Chevy Chase would have just kind of ruined that. Now, I mention him because many of his fans think that one of his better character roles was that of Fletch. He starred in 2 Fletch movies, and I think the first one, everyone will agree, was a hell of a lot better than the second one. Well, it's been quite a few years since we've seen Fletch on the silver screen, but now he is back, thanks to Jon Hamm. See, he does more than just date Flo. All right. Confess Fletch is the name of the movie. It finds the former investigative reporter and amateur sleuth wrapped up in high crimes involved in the art world. Starring with Hamm are Robert Picardo, Marcia Gay Harden, Kyle MacLachlan, and Lorenzo Izzo. Here's a look at Confess Fletch.
Hi, Frank.
Where are you right now?
None of your business.
Come on, Fletch. Aren't you bored? I need you for a story. I got that police report you wanted. I just emailed it to you. It's encrypted.
What's the password?
Go F yourself.
My father's paintings were stolen. The Picasso was appraised at $20 million.
Well, that hardly seems worth stealing.
You're not a detective.
But I was an investigative reporter. It's an occupation that's been cheapened by the digital age, like president.
Earl Maurice Fletcher?
They caught me in the middle of a yawn. Can you imagine that?
Who killed this young woman?
I think the victim interrupted an art theft.
Your fingerprints are on the murder weapon, and someone matching your description was seen with the victim. Come back with me to police headquarters.
I get it. You want my help? Okay. Hey, guys, is there a way we can call in a coffee order? I'd kill for a macchiato. Not literally.
I looked into your criminal record.
And?
You're a bit of a shady character, Mr. Fletcher.
But I am adorable.
If you did kill that girl, do the right thing and give me an exclusive.
Let's talk about the suspects.
The Countess de Grazia married Papa for his money. Somehow she's in both.
Flesh, you're trying to seduce me.
Quite the collection of impressionists you have.
Those are reproductions.
That's how I introduce my children. Why did you lie to me?
You're becoming paranoid. Maybe you should get a gun.
Did you murder that girl? Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't. Did you?
What is this? Woodburn and Bernstein?
Almost.
This stupid idiot moron has something to do with this.
You want me on the outside so I can solve this thing. Are you Fletcher? Yes, I am. Oh! I mean, no, I'm not. I always get that wrong.
Fletch is kind of a hard sell for the box office. They tried it in a few test cities. It wasn't the type of movie that was going to bring in a box office gold. Probably do a lot better on the streamers, and that is where you will find it now. Hamm is actually pretty good as Fletch. He is certainly a whole lot less smug than Chevy Chase did him. The ending of this film is a bit of a stretch, and I think it'll leave not only viewers of the movie, but especially Fletch fans a little bit unsatisfied. You know, Fletch isn't the only big-name character coming back to the silver screen. Pinocchio is doing it as well. Now, Walt Disney opted some years ago to make live versions of its animated classics. That whole concept was met with trepidation. While the film technology had certainly advanced considerably, it was debated whether the advanced technology alone directed Disney's motivation. For a large part, most of the live editions of the animated classics are rather lame, and Pinocchio, this version, is no exception. Watching this opus will have you wanting to revisit the cartoon version post-haste. Luckily for this, most of the characters in Pinocchio aren't human. There are foxes, there's cats, there's donkeys, there's fish, and a whole lot of other animals. And all of these are CGI with voiceover actors, including Keegan-Michael Key. But folks, this is Disney, and so the agenda must flow. The Blue Fairy is black. Really? Blue would come to mind? No. In fact, every secondary character is black, even though this story takes place in Italy. And I can assure you, even after the disastrous immigration policy that was incorporated a few years back by the Italian government, the country does not look as if it's a town in Uganda, but it does here. As far as Tom Hanks' portrayal of Geppetto, he spends entirely too much time yelling, even when not being chased by sea monsters. Now, this is a personal assault, I think, on the Italian culture. We don't yell, we're just passionate. Speaking of the whale, the matting for the entire sequence is amateurish. Folks, I got to tell you, this resembles something that you would expect to see back in 1960s films. Not even kids who are very tech savvy at an early age will accept this lame rendition as viable. With every movie it releases in its live action universe, the argument is augmented that the classics should remain as animated. This live action nonsense just isn't working, except, of course, for the movies that are Chinese in nature. Can you say Mulan? They look exceptional. I wonder why that is.
it. First star I see tonight. I wish I may. I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
When you wish upon a star.
Propaganda films, an absolutely horrible horror film I gotta tell you about. All that and a whole lot more when Outtakes with Rex Reel continues right after this. We are very happy to have as our sponsor the House of Fairuza Barbershop and Cigar Lounge. You know, I've been telling you a lot about both aspects of this, the barbershop and the cigar lounge, for quite some. I have never been in this place and not had a good time, whether I'm just going in to get coiffed or whether I'm going in for a night of relaxation. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Sam is going to have his annual end of year cigar sale. It's coming up quick. And I want to tell you, just give you a little heads up to prepare for this. Sam's going through some renovations down in the cigar lounge. They're actually going to have a walk-in humidor for the cigars. Yeah, this will be really slick. And in prepping for that, the cigar sale is coming on. It's absolutely huge. I mean, this is the time to stock up, boys and girls. Let me tell you, I know I'm going to go down there. Our personal favorite is the Monte Cristo. So I'll probably get some people, what? You still got? Yeah, pretty good stuff. This is a great sale. I know I'm going to take advantage of it, and I encourage you to do it too. I'll have more details on this big sale coming up in future shows, but brace yourself for it now. If you like and enjoy a good cigar, you're going to want to take advantage of this. It's the House of Fairuza Barbershop and Cigar Lounge, located on the corner of Drake Road and South Park Road. They support us. Won't you support them? Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I've got to tell you about a rather sinister plot by Hollywood to indoctrinate your children into the queer and trans ideologies and how it is currently underway. Now, Hollywood knows most of the productions aimed at children and pushing these two agendas are not strong offerings. Rather than substance, these projects generally focus on the message only, and as such, cannot stand against shows that have better writing, acting, and direction. So the Academy is seeking to garner publicity and a young interest in these messages by creating a new category just for them. The new category is dubbed Children's and Family Emmy Awards. It is designed to shine a spotlight on the show that presents your children with the right and proper message. Now, one of the principal shows promoted in this campaign is a show called Heartstopper. It's the story of two queer high school students. The show has garnered an audience, albeit a very small one, but it does promote rather heavily alternative lifestyles for the young. But Heartstopper could never compete against quality shows. It's just not made that well. So Hollywood is hoping that it can create interest with the kids in these topics if it wins in this new category. Now, this fight for your children's minds is real, and Hollywood's attempts are rather insidious.
Boy in there waiting for you. Oh, is it their secret boyfriend or the straight boy crush?
I speak in grey to match the shade on the inside of my brain. I decay when my tongue touches the edges of your name.
Hi.
As your token straight friend, it's my duty to remind you that sometimes people are straight.
Well done. Glad Nick's such a nice friend.
Hi. Hi.
And speaking of Insidious, although this isn't really quite that bad, I gotta tell you. Let's do a little bit of history here. During World War II, Hollywood did its part for the war effort by making a plethora of what can now be considered propaganda war films. These were not like the tripe that are released today, but rather they were quality stories with characters that had arcs and big stars in them. They were quite effective at the time. The general template, not all of them, but the general template, featured a protagonist who really didn't want anything to do with the war, but through some type of personal tragedy was dragged into it. And once he was committed to the war, he fights bravely for truth, justice, and the American way. Well, the movie White Raven Sniper follows this exact same template. The difference is, it's not an American war, it's the Ukrainian war, and it's a propaganda film for them. There is a difference, despite what the Biden regime may want to tell you. If you believe the current narrative, progressive narrative, that Ukraine is a democracy, that Russia is an aggressor, and that the need for Americans to come to the aid of Ukraine, well, if you believe all that, then you might find some enjoyment in this movie because it heavily relies on that narrative. Now, I had a problem with White Raven Sniper because I understand that Ukraine is not now, nor has it been, a democracy. It did indeed house biochemical labs, which were a concern for Russia, and it served as a money laundering funnel for the Biden family and for key members of the neocon movement. So watching this story about heroics for a man who was wronged, this story fell flat for me. It was like trying to convince a little boy that he's actually a little girl. It does feature, however, a plethora of nifty guns and presents spot-on sniper tactics. Here is a look at White Raven Sniper.
Я хочу вигнати цю наволоч з нашої землі.
Снайперів не любить ніхто. Але не гвинтівка робить снайпера небезпечним, а його кмітливість та витримка.
Хороша робота.
Служу українському народові. Мій позивний Ворон!
Направ мою руку, Боже. Хай знищить усе вороже.
It has been a while since I've allowed you to add to your home video collection, but we are back giving away another free movie. Oh, this one has some pretty good special effects in it. It's called, They Crawl Beneath. Yeah, you remember some years ago, there was a movie called Tremors. That was a pretty good movie, wasn't it? This has a similar theme to it, but the special effects in this are really, really good. It's called They Crawl Beneath, and I'm going to allow you to add this to your home video collection. This is the Blu-ray edition, and all you need to do is contact me. I'm going to put my email address up here for you. It's filmcritic3@verizon.net. Send me your name and return address, and I will pop one of these into the mail to you. It's really that simple to win. Now, admittedly, I only have about 15 of these to give away, so when they're gone, they're gone. First come, first served. And when you send me that email, in the subject line, put crawl. This way I'll know what movie it is that you're looking for. They crawl beneath. Here's a look at the film.
Let's really get this thing fixed.
Why? It's not broken.
What's the definition of broken?
The quake was approximately 6.4. Aftershocks are a certainty to quakes of this size.
Yo, Danny.
Need some body work.
It's awfully easy on the eye.
I'll get this one over here. It's another quake!
Bill!
Uncle Bill! Somebody help me, please! How many of you are there?
The test results came back for the specimen, and the toxicity level of the venom is off the chart.
Gwen?
Where the hell are you?
I'm trapped in Bill's garage. You wanna mess with me?
An earthquake starts it all, and they're unleashed. They crawl beneath. A copy of this Blu-ray edition can be in your home video collection. Just drop me a line at filmcritic3@verizon.net. Put in the subject line crawl, and I'll send one your way. Hey, one more piece of news I want to give you just before we skedaddle out of here. You know that skip intro button? Yeah, it's about to go the way of the dodo. You know, Netflix started this, okay? You're watching a show, maybe you're watching 2 or 3 episodes. You could skip the intro. You could hit, select and skip the intro. Wow. You know, the people who write the theme songs for these shows are majorly pissed at this because that's the only way people know the theme songs for these shows is if you watch the intro. That's where they get their fame and notoriety. And if you hit the skip intro, you miss the theme song. When Netflix picked this up, they estimate that skip intro button is pressed, ready for this, 136 million times per day. Per day, those themes are not being heard. So the folks, the composers in Hollywood, they want that skip button eliminated. It's a pretty big union. All right, and there are some heavy guys in there as far as composers are concerned. So don't be too surprised if they get their way that skip intro button slides right out the window. They want you to hear their song. Don't forget about the fantastic cigar sale coming up at the House of Fairuza Barbershop and Cigar Lounge. Screenings are back. Right after we tape this show, in the next week, I have 3 screenings. They're actually inviting critics back to the theater. This should be an awful lot of fun. I'll tell you all about it. Don't forget the podcast that's coming up. And don't forget, you can add They Crawl Beneath to your home video collection. Just send me your name and return address, and I'll fire one out to you. We got to run. It's all the time we have today. So now that you have learned what you have learned, and there was a lot, here endeth your lesson.